Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 594th Imagine Greater Buffalo program and over 200 YouTube productions, all hosted by our wonderful downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN, as I like to pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, a little housekeeping. Everyone will be watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation as time allows. We are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channel. And please, we hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speakers. Joining us today are Brian Trzeciak and Ann Conable from the Buffalo Maritime Center. Brian is the executive director and Ann is the board president. Ann also previously worked for the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library for over 15 years as the community outreach person for the library, where she held a position of community engagement manager officially. As a personal note, it was 16 years ago this week that the very first Imagine program was given live at the library, as they were then. So it's a nice moment of remembrance and anniversary as well. So they're going to talk with us today about the Erie Canal 200th anniversary and our version in 2025 of the Wedding of the Waters. So Brian and Ann, please start us off by telling a little bit about, well, how did we get to this point of today's program? How is that? Take it away.
All right. Well, Dennis, thank you very much for having us. We're really excited to talk with you all about the bicentennial voyage. I see a lot of friends on who actually were involved very much in the trip. So we'll get right into it in a bit. But I don't know if you want to add anything while I start pulling this up.
Well, this whole thing was a gigantic adventure. I think one of the things that most impresses me about thinking about it now that it's over and done with is this whole voyage was put together with approximately 2 years of very in-depth planning. We would not have had the success that we had without that planning, and so we lived in a world of spreadsheets for quite a while.
Yes. Let me jump right in here. Dennis, I'm having a little bit of a issue sharing my screen here. It's not showing up. I don't know if there's a...
That's at Hazen. Let's see if Hazen can help us out.
Yeah.
All right. I know that when we were meeting earlier, we were able to do it before. So
Yep.
Are you, you've got your PowerPoint presentation?
I do. It's right here, but it's for some reason it's not showing up in the little box for some, I don't know why.
Okay. At the bottom of your Zoom page screen, there's a green arrow button that says share screen.
Yeah.
And it's not there. There's a few tabs. You might have a browser tab, a window tab, your whole screen tab.
Nothing's there, Hazen. Sorry.
Oh,
It was there. Now it's not.
not sure. Do you want to close and reopen your PowerPoint?
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't see anything on my screen, my computer. It literally just worked 5 minutes ago. So, let me see if I have it here, or let me see, let's try to do this again. Okay. Well, there you go. All right. Well, there you
we go. Yay.
Okay. Gotta sprinkle some good luck juice on it. Okay. So here we go. This is continue to share. All right. We are commemorating the Erie Canal and celebrating community. What you're seeing right here is the Erie Canal boat Seneca Chief being towed by the C.L. Churchill, leaving Buffalo Harbor on September 24th, 2025. And really love this photo just because it captures the excitement and of the entire trip that we were about to do. So let's just, oops. There we go. Let's start with the itinerary. we took on 28 different stops, a really ambitious plan here. And a lot of people thought, you really got to add in some times for rest days and for weather days. And we're like, it'll all work out. And it all worked out. And that was because of a couple things. Number one, the weather was really amazing compared to what we could have gone into. But the other thing was that it was an immense amount of planning that went into this. And Chelsea's on the in the audience right now, and she was pivotal. Working with the Buffalo Maritime Center to make sure that we were in every port at every time that we said we were going to be there. Whitney is also on from a marketing department. So when we said that we would be somewhere at 3 o'clock, we had to be there at 3 o'clock. So we had to adjust our speed. We had to pick up observers along the way. So it's pretty miraculous that we actually did this in retrospect, and that we're going to do it again in 2026. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's talk about the overall goal of what this whole thing was. This project had been started back in with John Montague back in the 90s, trying to think of what we could do as a city to pay homage to the Erie Canal, the body of water that arguably made Buffalo and pretty much the United States in the westward expansion. So we built this boat starting in 2020, and we launched the boat in 2024, and we were on the voyage in 2025. But the boat's name, the Seneca Chief, was something that we really delved into, and we, inspired by that name, we decided to reach out to Indigenous community and learn more about it, to share that more holistic version of the Erie Canal story. So that's something that we were pretty proud of. And Melissa Parker Leonard, I think, is on too, and she was pivotal in this whole endeavor as well. But our objectives: practice traditional boat building skills and craftsmanship. And that was along the way building the boat, but it was also underway at each port. We would be doing these exhibits of these interactive activities that we'll talk about in a bit. We want to get people to understand what life would have been like back in the 1800s getting on this boat. So when you got on the boat and you were touring the boat, you would be transported back in time and really understand how people used to live back then on a boat like this. And then, of course, identify sustainable practices. We talked about the future. A lot of this was reflecting on what happened in the past, but what we really wanted to talk about was, where do we go from here? How do we keep these waters clean? What kind of actions can we take as humans on this earth to keep working toward a sustainable future? So we made a few decisions along the way to try to eliminate plastics in our eating and et cetera. So there's a bunch more that we did, but it was a really wonderful thing to talk about that and to live that. And then lastly, it's the Erie Canal's influence on the people and the places of New York State and the nation, and that includes the indigenous population that is often left out of the story. So we talked about that. But the major thing that we took on and what we learned from this is that we brought community together with this project. We were 33 days traveling, 28 different ports. And that number is kind of deceptive too, because we stopped in many more ports than this is 28 ports that we stayed overnight, right? But there were more. We traveled 500 miles, and that doesn't include the trip back up the Hudson to keep the boat in Waterford. 36 locks, and if you would believe it, the last couple locks along the way were the most harrowing. You'd think like by that time we would get used to it, and we did, but they're all a different world. What you see here is the lock in Waterford. I believe that is Waterford. It's a huge lock coming out of there. And then the 100 plus volunteers. There was over 200 people who built the Seneca Chief, and over 100 volunteers were along the way. And as far as crew, docents, M&T volunteers, it was an amazing thing. And then we did get to work with some students along the way. 750 students were able to come interact with us and see us in action. And that's something to keep in mind, because we want to do a little bit more of that to come in this next year. And that will attribute to Anne's idea that is growing. And then 20,000 visitors. These are people that we actually talked with. They got on the boat and we engaged with. And if you count all of the people around the locks from the shore, it's thousands more. And then, of course, the 190,000 engaged in the virtual voyage, which if you have not seen that yet, I would encourage you to go to Facebook and check out Chelsea Moore's virtual voyage and working with Eddie and Greg and me and Roger and everybody along the way to really tell the story daily about what we were experiencing. And that was something that truly helped the whole story. So this is leaving Buffalo on day one, September 24th. We had worked all, many years, 5 years to get to this, and for John Montague, many more. And this was a perspective from the Churchill. And we're looking back on the crowd. And I'll just say for that day, I didn't know when it was going to hit me that we're actually going on this thing. What about you?
It was a remarkable day. It was very emotional,
Yeah.
actually, seeing you all pull away from the dock there at the commercial slip. It sort of felt like, wow, we're really doing this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and then the moment when I blew the whistle, it just like kind of got that choked up, and I'm an emotional guy to begin with, and I'm gonna, if I don't cry during this presentation, it'll be something. So, so from the great again, this wonderful photo that really captures us taking heading away from the Great Lakes, and this is some shots of the crew in one of the locks. And you can see everybody's really nice and calm and relaxed, and because there was all this energy and excitement heading into the lock. And then you would finally get on the wall and the currents would stop and the wind would stop, and then you would just hang out, and it would be a nice little break for about 10 minutes. And toward the end, we started playing more music. And Eddie, our exhibits coordinator and manager, and also our IT guy, we were put a speaker right up in front of the CL Churchill, the tugboat, and start playing this playlist of songs about going down, like Bruce Springsteen, I'm going down, down. And toward the end, especially going through Waterford, it turned into a dance party the entire time. So, and people were just watching that along the way. So that was a wonderful thing. Another nice image of the canal boat. I was asking Chelsea about this. I'm like, hey, where was that picture? There are a lot of people who came through and just took pictures from the shore and sent it to us. I think this one was Buffalo Sal out there and taking a few shots along the way. But you can see it's just a beatific scene right here. And we only ran into a couple days of rain. And the very last day was a treacherous downpour. So, but it went from 85 degrees all the way to like
30.
20, 30 degrees. So it's an interesting thing. But and as Chelsea, as she given these presentation before, I would say like we were never alone, and it always sounded daunting, but it's true. Like, you look around and people were always looking at the boat coming through. There was no way to hide this boat, right? It was, people knew about it. We did a really great job getting the word out there. Whitney did a great job getting the word out there with all of us. So all of the people would just watch this boat and this historic moment going through. This is the first time a boat like this went through the entire way all the way to New York City in many years. I mean, this was the replica of the Seneca Chief. Of course, there was the Lois McClure that had been traveling that way too, and it's a sight to see. It really is. This is an image from the Buffalo Sal, which is the push boat, just of going into the lock and just seeing how many people at the end. This, I believe, was near Amsterdam. How many people were gathering on? We would take observers who would just be along for the ride, and there was just the number was growing along the way, and it was a really wonderful thing. This is a shot going underneath the George Washington Bridge, and in the distance you see Manhattan, and
It
that
looks like Oz. I just can't get over
Yeah.
how it looks like Oz to me. I was on this leg of the trip. It was like an 8-hour day on the boat, but the Hudson could not have been more beautiful. It was all fall foliage all the way. The river was very calm. There were lots of boats that came out to meet us. We'll have some pictures of that as well.
yeah.
Once in a lifetime.
So from the Great Lakes to the sea, right? And that's referencing a song that Scott Stalker, who is a gentleman we met in Waterford, wrote a song about this whole trip that unfortunately we couldn't play for you. But if you sign up for our emails, you'll be getting that pretty soon, and a nice video that Chelsea put together. But you see here the a little flotilla of rowboats from I think the downtown boathouse or community boathouse from New York. And there's a little, I mean, it was late October and there were still boats coming around. It looks deceptive here because it looks really calm and it's not going into Manhattan. It was a bathtub. Ferries were going back and forth. And luckily we had, we all took part and we were part of the crew, but we had Captain Ann Loading who knew these waters and was able to help us navigate. So that was really something. This is pulling into the day before the 200-year anniversary, October 25th. And that site right there, and it might look like we're heading directly into that pier. We weren't. The current is taking us, so we just swung around, and it was very smooth transition. And there's just another couple photos from the following day. And I really love the image to the left, just, and Greg standing on the bow, just seeing the city in the background and a boat like ours making it to Manhattan is just something that I'll never forget. And then you see on the right-hand side, the lilac on the left, the fireboat, the new fireboat in the city that they were, and say
Greeting us.
greeting us,
Yeah.
christening, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, our now little boat, what it looks like at Pier 26. So through the whole trip, we were doing exhibit and programming along the way, right? So we would travel for probably half the day to not to more of the day, and then we would scramble to turn our living quarters into an exhibit. And we did tours, and we had hundreds of people line up. And this was in Lyons. Lyons was a great stop.
Mhm.
So we would do a little welcome ceremony, and then we would get people on. And then we would have stations for learning about hand tools. We did a wood burning bookmark, which will show you. We educated about aquatic invasive species with some partners of ours, maritime skills, metallurgy, et cetera. This is an example of Eddie working, and talking with some school groups and some adults about what is inside the Seneca Chief. We would address a whole group of kids and a group of adults just from the top. It was a wonderful stage. I think Greg Dudley called it that. It was just to address what we are doing and why we're doing it, and to engage people and get people involved. It was wonderful. M&T Bank was a sponsor of this trip, and they were a tremendous, tremendous partner, not only with their support financially, but also with their volunteers. So they really got involved the entire way. And this is Chelsea working, I think it's RJ there, Whitney, and, working on paddles. So we would have kids come in and try their hand at woodworking. And a lot of times kids fell in love with it. It's something that they've never done before. And this, I believe, was in Clyde, and they were doing the bookmark branding. And this was in Ossining when a Girl Scout troop got to walk away with something we wanted to give back, not just a trinket, but something that is these pieces of wood. Our volunteers cut these pieces, and our volunteers worked on the branding too with everybody, so that they're really leaving with something that it belongs, connected with the Buffalo Maritime Center and the Erie Canal boat. So that was a wonderful thing. And this is in Kingston, our volunteers working with some more students. As far as programming partners, Big Ditch was along the way, and they were awesome. And it was a good shift beer every other night. That was a great thing. But we did work with, this is the Tonawanda Reservation Historical Society, aka Book Club in Medina, with Paul Winnie, who was a wonderful guy who worked with us along the way, helped to educate us, and helped to really articulate what the message is, and what the message we tried to get across, which was that we're bringing community together. It's not a bad thing to look back in the past and to realize that there's more to the story. So we did our best to talk about that, and then just other partners along the way. So this is, I don't know if you can see this. If you see a green thing just swaying back and forth, that's Chelsea's hammock. And this is in Cornwall, where I grew up, actually. And the Hudson River was just slapping against the boat for the entire night. And I was in the hammock on the other side. And I will just tell you that it was one of the best nights of sleep I ever had. I mean, it's rocking yourself to sleep. It was amazing. So other people would sleep on bunks, but it got fairly cold. There was a little heater there, but we got used to it. It was a wonderful thing. And you can see just how we were living on the boat. We took naps when we could. And we tried to get a lot of work done when we could. Eddie is referencing Chelsea's shoes that should not be on the bed. So that's something we learned about. But another example of what we did along the way, we would just set up and yep, okay, and play music. And again, this is me going through my hometown. I was really proud to be around on the Hudson River, and just seeing Storm King Mountain was super cool. And how we live, we had hammocks during the day, and then we had to shove everything away so that we could turn into an exhibit at night. And how we ate. Our program partners were so generous, and we had these wonderful dinners, and along the way. And then we see in the bottom corner Chelsea's dad working with Doug, and they're doing the dueling Blackstones, where we had this, delicious breakfast that I would never make for myself, and we were eating very well. And then we did see the Bills lose to the Patriots, which is a dark day I'm not going to talk about. But let's talk about the gathering of the water. So this was, and Melissa, I hope you don't mind, we're referencing you here, because what we did was that we decided we needed a ceremony for our time, not the wedding of the waters. We weren't going to recreate that. We were going to do something called the gathering of the waters, where we would stop at every port and add water to this barrel. And we would also plant an eastern white pine tree, which we learned from the Tonawanda Reservation Historical Society. If we chose eastern white pine, that is a great tree, the great tree of peace for Haudenosaunee culture. So we decided to plant those along the way when we could. We planted those with kids. But I do want to read, "May the waters we have gathered and the trees we have planted remind us that remembrance and responsibility must always flow together. And from that truth, we can create peace and prosperity." It's a lovely line. It's exactly what we were trying to do along this trip. So again, thank you, Melissa, for playing such a pivotal role here. And we want to have, as we go back, we're going to get plaques and have that and some other messages on this. So we finally got to the end where you can see Governor Hochul. Oops, let's go. Can I go back? Governor Hochul right here, putting the water in the barrel, and there's Melissa. And it was just a wonderful thing to be a part of. And it went by very quickly. And then finally, the Gathering of the Waters in New York City. This was the day before, on October 25th. And this was the whole crew and some volunteers on top of the boat. And we're all holding on to each other because there's like 3-foot swells in there right now. So, but that was a wonderful thing. Oh, and then, so let's talk about the Back to Buffalo tour, what we're doing in 2026. We have to bring the boat back. Right now it's in Waterford in the mud. And in June, we believe, we're going to travel about 19 days, stopping at 12 different ports. Oh, that's my time, but I'm going to talk a little bit more. And then it's going to be all education focused along the way. And, kind of had this idea when we were and talking with us all about this. And you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. One of the things that was a little frustrating about the voyage we did this year was that we were out of sync with school terms, and we really wanted to reach out to students as much as we could. So this idea for 26 is a shorter voyage with targeted stops. We made a lot of really wonderful new relationships with some of the school districts along the way. So our goal here is going to be at the very end of the school year in 26 to make specific stops with much more immersion for kids and schools. We'll also do some public sessions as well, but the focus is really going to be on upping what we talk about in terms of reaching students about the story of the canal and the story of the boat and what this means for the future.
Right. And then this is a very draft, and this is Rome. So we're coming back to you, hopefully, and I'll be talking with you guys about that. But this is a draft agenda, an itinerary. So I'm going to move from that very quickly so you guys don't remember that. No, it might change. You never know. But then here's the thing. You got to think of the Back to Buffalo tour as coming back to Buffalo. You guys have not seen the boat here in Buffalo. And that's a I don't want to say tragedy, but it's something that we want to change, right? So we're going to come back here, and I think the day that we're throwing out there is June 25th. I believe it's a Saturday. So we're going to come from Tonawanda and have a big celebration that we are back. We've completed the circuit. We've done this entire thing. And we will then continue our community programming and offering community programming to people of Buffalo throughout the summer and then into the fall. And that's when we're going to work with more students and get them on. So, and again, we'd love to thank our sponsors, David and Joan Rogers, the Canal Corp, Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, the Erie Canal Way, National Heritage Corridor, and of course, M&T Bank. So that is our presentation, and we'll be happy to talk with you about any questions you might have.
Well, a great presentation indeed. You took a vision that literally goes back to the 20th century of a 19th century reality and executed and made it happen. Give John Montague all the credit for the vision, but people had to make it happen. And Brian, you through the Maritime Center and your leadership, it's just great to see Buffalo ambassadors to the state and really well beyond the state of a can-do attitude that Buffalo has, and you alerted the rest of the state to the good people of Buffalo and the support and the creativity you brought to this project. Your joy comes through in your presentation.
Oh, thanks, Dennis.
So what do we have? Any questions coming from the audience at all, Hazen?
So I'm waiting for some of the questions to start rolling in, but I have one to start with. Using different modes of transportation provides different perspectives on a space. How do your observations of the Erie Canal or the Hudson River differ when you travel by boat as opposed to seeing these bodies of water from a car or a train?
That is a wonderful question. I think there's speaking for myself, when I'm on in my car driving back, it's to get to point A to point B, right? And I think that on the canal boat, it was largely about that. I say, let me before I'll say the what I'd like to say and then what actually happened. What I'd like to say is that being on the water just slows time down a bit. And you have this thing called canal time, and you get to experience that, and you get to really take in the moments. And there were plenty of times where somebody saw a bald eagle that, you'd run out and say, "Oh my God, that's great," and then you'd go right back to work. So it's more deliberate, it's more intentional, and I think more people, and I think that's what the Buffalo Maritime Center is trying to do. We don't just build boats to build boats. We build boats to offer perspective about a different view of life. Getting out on the water, seeing your city from the water, is something that will make you appreciate the water more, and will make you appreciate your city. And I think that I have a new appreciation for all bodies of water, but especially seeing the Erie Canal and the Hudson River, where I grew up. From there, it choked me up, and it was a very difficult thing to describe in a good way. So.
Well, and Buffalo from the water is a very different perspective than when you're on the land. And I just love that perspective. New York City was miraculous to me. We were going almost all the way down to the bottom of the island to get to the pier where we were going to be. And I mentioned earlier that the city looked like Oz, but you have such a focus on the buildings, the architecture, it's a whole different scale when you're out on the water and you're looking at your city or a place you've never been, or New York City or whatever it is. So I really recommend it. It's in Buffalo's case, that's where we came from, was from the water. So I really recommend that any chance you get to be out on the water and see the city from that viewpoint, it really tells you a lot about what this place is.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have a comment and then another question. So Bobby says, "Thank you for everything BMC has done for all of us. We look forward to seeing you in June 2026.
Oh, that's great.
And then
Bobby's awesome. Hey, Bobby, Rome was incredible, and we're going to be coming back to see you if you don't mind.
And then we have a question from Peter, who says, "This celebration faced eastward. Was there any connection that connected to the westward expansion, like westward of Buffalo?"
No, I think we were really highlighting the initial trip,
It was
which
about the
was
canal.
it was about the canal. And as we go west, especially with the semi-quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of the states, that's something to discuss. But if we do discuss it, we do take it on, we are going to do our our darndest to tell a more balanced story of that. You know, often you hear like it's the Erie Canal made it possible for us to travel west, and that was amazing, and period. And I think what we're going to talk more about is what happened when people went west. You know, what was lost, what was gained, and to have that discussion to bring us all into the conversation.
Mhm.
Awesome. That is all of the questions and comments I have at this time.
Well, that's good. You know, between the building of the Seneca Chief for this great community project and the existing the Longshed Museum, telling the very story that I hear you telling all these port towns, reminding them that before there was a Erie Canal, there were people living here. There were people engaged in New York State and beyond. And that story is beautifully told in the museum that's run by the Buffalo History Museum. But your boat really just crystallized that story to all those port cities. You again were like ambassadors of a story as much as a boat and a moment in time. It's really about the American experience that really doesn't get talked about. But this remembrance has certainly done a great job here in Buffalo, anyways, to try to give a balanced picture of what was here and the effects of the canal on New York State and America.
Thanks for that, Dennis. That's very well said. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, unless we have any further questions, I notice our time is about up. This has been a moment I've looked forward to it because it really is the highlight. You folks were honored in the 16th annual Imagine Greater Buffalo recognition award earlier this spring, and rightly so. This has been a great community project, and that's the sort of thing I'd like to think needs to be out there and archived on the Downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library's YouTube channel. So there's, as I say, over 200 of these programs, as well as other programs that the library has created. So check out that site and let everybody know the good news that is Buffalo, the Buffalo community. So let's look to see who we have for our last program in 2025. Hope you'll join us next week, Tuesday the 16th. We'll be joined by Dr. Anna Wagger, the curator of exhibitions at the University at Buffalo Art Galleries, who will be discussing art and remembrance, 86 reasons for asylum admission. Kimberly Chapman's solo exhibit currently on view at the UB Anderson Gallery. This is a good chance to hear about that gallery and its very special exhibit that connects a better understanding of the Richardson complex and its role as an asylum. So join us next week. Hope to see you then. I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.
Thanks, Dennis.